your skills could keep sharpening. So you know, so that's the other scary side, is how good can he get from, you know what I mean? Even from the second fight, he's had a few fights in between. So it'll be interesting. But enough of that, man. It's all about you today, bro. So but how's your training camp going, man?
Everything, man. We are 3 weeks deep now. And it's been going amazing, to be honest. Like, off of my last performance, like, we were fresh, nothing, no scratches, nothing, literally nothing. So I had maybe a week just to chill and relax a little bit, just to get the mindset and reset, kind of switch focus onto the new task, and grab right back into it, So at the end of it all, it will be a 9-week camp. And I feel really, really good at the moment. And everything's just been we're progressively amping things up, and training smarter each time, trying to figure out how to just continue to improve in all aspects of the game, whilst maintaining the physical performance and the freshness of the body, without getting injured and things like that,
So burning out.
I think we've got a really, really good routine going at the moment. The team, everybody coming up with fights and things, and the energy is really, really good within the training room. And I feel very sharp, and with my skills as well as with my mind. I feel unstoppable at the moment, man. Everything's going really, really great.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. Are you up in Brizzy or?
Yeah.
Sorry, you're up in Brazil. What do you mean? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Whereabouts are you at?
Sydney, bro. Sydney. Yeah.
Sydney.
Yeah. You guys have been pretty good with like COVID and stuff there, right? You've been able to train and things like that. Like, hasn't been impacting too much.
Yeah. No, it's I actually last night got together with some friends and stuff. We're actually discussing this. Like, man, we've been so lucky as far as the state itself, Queensland, and whenever we get cases, we get 2 or 3, and then just kind of go into these snap lockdowns for 2-3 days or whatever. And then we've been able to bounce back, and just kind of basically no restrictions really, right? At the moment, just, mandatory masks and things like that, just contact tracing. But as far as training goes, it's like, as far as my lifestyle, to me, it feels like there's no restrictions whatsoever. It's like, if you ask me, it's like, what COVID, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In the state here, we've been very, very lucky, which is unlike other states, like, New South Wales and Victoria and stuff.
Yeah, so probably Victoria even now, man.
Yeah, Victoria. Yeah, how's things over there?
Yeah, look, New South Wales not too bad, man. I think everyone's kind of getting over it. I know the gyms open up on Monday, so I'm excited to get back and just train. Like, so I've had like a few amateur boxing fights. I've been doing kickboxing for a long time, just training in it. Yeah. So I'm just keen to get back and just, train and just exercise and stuff. But I've been lucky. I got 2 mates that live around me that I train with. So we've been able to train outdoors and stuff, man. So it's been refreshing, because you probably wouldn't train outdoors unless you were forced to sometimes as well, especially if you're in a gym environment. So, so it's been good in that sense. But, I think, Monday, a few restrictions are being lifted. So like a few shops and stuff like that. Retail's opening up. But yeah, it's just getting to that point, man. I think everyone's just over it, man. Everyone just wants to kind of get back into a bit of normality now. And it's looking like that anyway. Yeah, it's looking like that come November. So, it's not as bad as Victoria, man. Those guys are copping it. Like, I spoke to some of my cousins there, and fuck me, the dude was just walking up and down the driveway, like getting exercise and shit for the day. And I'm thinking, man, I don't even know. Yeah, like the furthest, and this was during like the peak time and stuff, but they've just been copping it at a whole new level. So
they can't even go outside to exercise, man.
Like they can, like, depending on what restriction, but there was a point where the restriction was so bad, man, that the furthest he could go was the end of his driveway. So he used to go to his driveway for 1 hour a day and just walk up and down, man. And I was like, man, I don't know if I could do that. That'd be crazy, like, But I guess if you're in that situation, you're gonna take it if you can, right? So
you gotta do what you gotta do. Like my heart goes out to those people. And they've been in lockdown for months and months and months on end, and they just gotta sit and basically watch the other states like Queensland or whatever, and
Mm,
while living life as normal, you know, and
yeah,
they got to sit there like, what the, you know, it's just
yeah,
heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking,
yeah,
you know, for every industry
yeah,
and everybody dealing with it. It's like, fuck, we just, you
yeah,
know, let's roll on, you know, let's move
yeah,
on with
yeah,
this shit, you
yeah.
know,
That
take care
seems
of your
to,
health.
yeah, that seems to be
But
kind of the yeah, that seems to be kind of the kind of what everyone's feeling at the moment, especially in, I think, in Sydney as well. Like certain parts of Sydney was all right, but I just think everyone like collectively now is just like, man, let's just, like want to go see your family, go hang out, and
yeah,
just do things, yeah. Which is going to be weird when it does happen too, bro, because everyone's just going to be like, this is such a trip out, like being able to,
yeah.
yeah, go and do it. But tell me a little bit about yourself, man, like your early beginnings, like how did you kind of get into MMA, and how did your journey kind of start?
Well, this is I think whenever I think about this, how I came to actually know and hear my first time ever of MMA was, I was about 19 years old. I was working at a meat factory, meat production company here in Australia. And I used to work across a friend of mine, another Brazilian dude. And he started telling me about Anderson Silva. You're familiar with Anderson Silva,
Yeah,
of
of
course,
course,
right?
bro. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the spider. Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
whom at the time was just,
yeah,
still at the top of his game,
yeah.
dominating the UFC. And he just started telling me about all these stories and how this guy was doing his thing. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then at that time, it just kind of triggered my interest to seek out and get to know more about what this MMA thing was about. So I used to work night shifts back then. So I got home that night and just kind of started researching MMA, Anderson Silva, and then slowly started watching and just kind of taking information. And just as a young boy, and having come from where I come from, and like having experienced martial arts growing up and things like that, very, very active. I was doing some gym work at the time. I got interested to want to learn about it, So then I started researching gyms around me, things that, schedules that suited me, things like that. And then shortly after, like maybe within a week, I was already training at a gym, just learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai and kickboxing. And yeah, man, that's basically how it started. A friend of mine telling me about Anderson Silva, me getting super intrigued and interested to see what this thing was about. And shortly after, getting fired up to wanting to learn the sport and actually practice it and just learn something new. And he went from there.
Just dived in all in.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. For like
What?
the first few months, like, I was just an interested party in wanting to learn something new, because I really didn't enjoy the job that I was doing at the time. And I was like, man, let's go into something within me. At 19, I was still not super disciplined. I wasn't super, didn't have any sort of goals in mind per se. I wasn't driven to do much else. I was just living in the moment, and then researching it, just something within me just triggered my interest to want to learn the sport. And as I started learning the sport, started meeting the people and just hanging around those people and just slowly like branching out and just kind of networking and then absorbing more information. And within this environment, as you know, it's like when you surround by martial artists, people who truly train and practice daily discipline, like that thing rubs off on you, right? So at me at 19, I was like, man, this is awesome, and I didn't realize it at the time, but slowly that started shaping my character, more and more as I started developing and growing, learning, and then slowly started surrounding myself with more of those people, going to tournaments and things like that, and constantly watching stuff, and all of a sudden into motivation and stuff, and personal development, and slowly you're so ingrained in it, and then like you have these skills after a while, and then you get interested in wanting to test your skills against somebody who's trained, and then you start finding out about competitions, and it's like, oh, let's see how well I can do with these skills that I have or something, and that's slowly how it kind of happened. And then later
Yeah.
on, a few years in, I decided to turn pro. But yeah.
It's crazy how it's not even just the it's not even just it's not even just the training aspect of it, and it's not even like learning the skill aspect of it, but it's so good that you touched on all the other elements that you naturally develop when you kind of dive into martial arts. But like and there's a difference between diving into it just to kind of get fit and diving into it to learn. And I always say, like, if you're doing, like, especially with martial arts, if you dive into the technical aspect of it and like the understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, there's a whole nother paradigm of paradigm of like lessons and things to learn that you wouldn't if you were just kind of like focusing on, oh, I'm just doing it to be fit kind of thing, because there's a whole other aspect that starts to kind of change and starts to kind of break down you as a person, and then your personality and your state of mind, and how you kind of how you approach things and how you dissect things, and then all those other little elements just changes you. And it's so good to hear you say that, because that's like, even with me not say competing at a professional level, but always training like 5-6 days a week, that's what I love about it. Like it's what it gives for me. What it gives to me is everything else, how I handle everything else in life as well. It's the same approach, like whether it's podcasting, whatever it is, it's that same element, like consistency, turning up and putting in the work, and you reap the rewards and things like that. So there's a whole other aspect that people don't see that you can achieve by doing this, that it's more than just the fighting, it's more than just the the competing and etc. It's everything else that you get from it too. So did you know, at what point did you kind of know, I know you said you eventually went pro, at what point did you kind of know that you had a genuine interest for this and a knack to compete and an ambition to kind of take this serious?
That's a good question. So I was like, maybe like at 4 months in, like fresh from 0 to 4 months, I had already had like 2 amateur fights. And to be honest, like the guys I was at, I had as coaches at the time, they weren't really like experienced to the level that you expect somebody to be able to tell you whether or not you're ready to compete against somebody. They knew more than I did at the time, which was good. So I was like, I need to learn. These guys know more than I do. I don't know anything. So and plus the schedule suited me. So I was just, learning off of them. But they really shouldn't have put me to compete as an amateur so early, because I don't think I was ready. But in saying that, though, it was kind of like I was thrown into the deep water with the skills that I had. I had the willingness to go in there just to see whatever happened. And at like 3-4 months of training, experiencing those nerves and like the crowd yelling and just getting in there with another man, and there's people around you surrounded by this cage. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this feeling is so like unfamiliar. And now you're experiencing all these emotions, and then you got to fucking learn how to deal with it. So early on, experiencing that, I guess it was a blessing in disguise, because I had 2. The first one was like a draw. It was terrible. It froze. And from watching Anderson Silva so much, all I was doing was throwing front kicks. I was just throwing front kicks all day long. It was an amateur fight. You couldn't like punch to the face on the ground or nothing. It was super class, shin pads on, things like that. But I love the experience, man. And that just, again, the want to get more of that afterwards just consumed me. The need for like, okay, that was pretty cool. Like the experience, the whole thing, the preparation, the leading up to it, whatever, whether I was ready or not, I did what I thought, what I could do best at the time. And I went in there and I just gave it my all, and people started complimenting me. Others were, saying whatever, but I was very, very happy with what I had sort of demonstrated as far as like going from 0 to that point and just kind of putting something together and just like getting out of there in one piece. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And it's like getting punched in the face doesn't even hurt that bad. So anyway, fast forward, after training with these guys a few months, and then I got mismatched in my second MMA bout, and then didn't even know much about weight cutting, nothing like that. It was just like fighting my natural walk around weight, fighting these damn giants who were more experienced. And then I found a better gym, which is the gym I'm with to this day, Southside MMA, Southside Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then being with them for like 9 years plus, you know. So after having trained under the first guys I was training with for like 4 or 6 months, I realized, okay, I need to upskill. I need to learn better than these guys. And then I had met some other people throughout. I was like, oh, there's this gym now, there's this gym, there's this gym. And then you start getting to know other areas and understanding the levels. And so I was like, okay, this gym is clearly better. I'm going to go train with these guys. So that's where I shifted. And then after that, it was like a whole year of just solid training, because these guys with Southside, once I joined them, they were like, look, you got very, very like natural talent, but you're not ready. So give yourself the time to upskill and train for like a solid year. Then we go put you back in there again. So that's what I did. I just focused on trying to develop a well-rounded game as much as possible. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, striking, you know, Muay Thai, all of that. And then after a little while, man, like I started competing more often under Southside, and then, you know, got a good relationship with the coaches and everybody else, developed a good feel within the gym. And I just felt comfortable there. And within, I think, 3.5 to 4 years of training, I had sort of accumulated another couple wins, you know, under Southside, and I had like gotten big KOs and better performances. And after that, that's when I really like, I had gotten to 3-1-1 as an amateur and some big wins and stuff. And after a while, it just got hard to get matchups as an amateur. And I was like, I'm not getting paid anything for competing as an amateur. I'm doing all this effort, can't get fights as an amateur. Granted, I don't have much experience still as an amateur.
Such a pain in the ass, with amateurs there. Like, it just seems to be the case in any sport here. You know, even in like, you know, boxing or whatever it is, it's just, you know, like you said, you're not getting paid for it, but you're putting yourself through so much, and a fight could get canceled like that. A guy could just drop out like that. And I remember with combat sports, I remember one day I was in some type of mood, man. I sent him an email saying, man, you guys need to come up with a better, you need to come up with a better system that holds people accountable, because you're matching people like, you know, you're matching people like, you know, a week out or 5 days out, and then within 3 days or 2 days out, they're pulling out. And, you know, it's like, and I think the day that it triggered it is I was actually in the sauna after a training session with one of my mates who's a professional boxer. And I walked out, and I got told about a day or two before that I got matched. And then I walked out of the sauna, and I looked at my phone, and they said, man, your opponent pulled out. And I fucking got the shit. And you know what it's like, bro. And you're like, like trying to lose weight, and you know, you're coming out of a sauna and all this. And I was like, fuck this, man. I was like, it's such a pain in the ass. Like, all I want to do is just test myself. You know what I mean? And all I want to do is just compete. And it's so sad, because you got one person that's doing everything right and doing everything, keeping their word. And you know what I mean? And that's where, in some way, like, I think like eventually you just want to go pro, because you're like, at least the stakes are heavier, and you know that your opponent, it's going to have to be something very serious for them to pull out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or generally anyway, you know, like, but it's just,
so that's that's what happened. So couldn't get matches, still fresh as an amateur, but I felt confident. I was high on good big wins and big KO. Couldn't get matches. I was like, let's go pro. Why not? So first pro bout, terrible. Still the inexperience showed. So I got TKO'd in that first fight. But again, something that taught me a lot. You know, all those losses, I was, again, from learning the discipline and everything else, I learned, you know, I had good people. I still have good people around me who was able to guide me through it. You know, it's all right. It's not the end of the world. We can get better. Do this, do that.
It's so important, isn't it? Just having the right people around you. Like, it's something that I wanted to touch on, because you were talking a lot about how when you went to is it Southside MMA?
Correct.
Sorry, yeah. And just having that right, like, because and you could probably speak a little bit a bit more on it, but like how important was it for you to have that, the right people that kind of had, I guess, number one, wanted what's best for you, but also kind of that honesty policy, right? Like, hey, like, you know, you're
Yeah.
good and blah blah blah, but you know,
Yeah.
there's so much more to work on,
Yeah.
and trying to kind of curve you back in so that you don't kind of think too far ahead, well before what
Yeah.
you should be thinking, right? How
Yeah.
important was it for someone like you to have that, have that, those kind of minds around you? But how important is it in general to have those kind of minds around you?
Man, I'm so glad you asked that, because I don't think I've ever told this story publicly, but I think it fits the topic right now. Here's how I came to actually find out about Southside and meet whom is my head coach to this day, Paul Stolier. So this is fresh after, this is at a fight show. I think this was my second amateur fight where I was heavily mismatched. The guy destroyed me. I lost the bout. I'm in the back room crying, you know, it's like little thinking it's the end of the world. And at the time, I wasn't yet with Southside. I was still with these guys that I started with. And after this loss, I was in the back room crying. And you know how gyms are, like usually the back rooms, there's multiple different gyms and fighters preparing together in a little corner. And so Southside head coach Paul Stolier was there that night with one of his fighters. And he sees me crying in the corner. He approaches me. I don't know this guy. He approaches me, and he just starts to trying to console me and say, hey, man, it's all right. It's going to be okay. You did great. You know, trying to motivating me immediately and telling me you're going to be back, things like that, you know? And I was like, wow, at that moment, that was so empowering. And, you know, other people had told me the same thing, but to have this guy whom I knew of him. I think we had gone to Southside for like a cross training session at one point, and their guys had, you know, smashed us, and so I knew of Paul. I knew at the time he was a brown belt. He was, you know, dominating the scene, so I knew he was skilled and well respected guy already in the scene. And for him to come approach me when I was crying, he didn't need to do that, you know. So that was huge. That was extremely important. And who knows what I would have done if he hadn't approached me that night or something, if I would have maybe given up or something like that, who knows? But the fact that he approached me and motivated me and empowered me to continue pushing forward, that immediately was like, man, I need to go train with these guys, you know? So after that, that's when I joined them. You know, that's how I actually came to know Paul. And shortly after now, you know, today, like I said, 9 years on, him and together with my coach, Uncle Des, these guys have been tremendous in my development as an athlete, as a human being, as a man. You know, so I have tremendous respect for these guys because you know, in my opinion, and for me, it's like they are such selfless beings, you know, because daily they're in the gym. They don't have to do what they do. Like, they don't have to be in your corner. They don't have to do nothing that they do. You know, they're coaches. They could just leave it at coaching, clock in, teach the session, clock out, see ya. But they actually put in the time. They develop the friendship. They develop their relationship. They do their best to create a family environment within the gym. And everybody that walks in, if you bring the effort, you know, that's required. That's all they want, the effort. They want you to come in, show respect, put in the work, and they in turn will help you do whatever you want to do, whether you want to come in just for fitness, come in just to learn a skill, whatever it is, man. If you want to become a pro, they will guide you throughout the entire process. And, you know, ups and downs, whatever, they will be with you. You know, all you need is to put in the work. And I have been incredibly fortunate to have had these guys in my corner for sure.
It's amazing how life plays out sometimes, hey, bro. Just certain moments, certain things, and just the whole thing. It just opens up a whole nother avenue that you didn't even probably see coming at that point, you know. Exactly. So